and welcome back to the Minnesota homestead. I am thrilled today because it is the start of my canning season. A lot of people can throughout the year as they pick their berries and whatnot, but with the time spent on Saturday and Sunday building the cabin and then during the week working, I haven't been able to kick off my season yet. So today is a very exciting day in my year every year. I am kicking my season off with wild blackberry jam. Oh my goodness, it's gonna be so good. So I have everything pretty much prepared. I have my jars in the dishwasher. I just put them through the sanitize cycle so that they are all sterilized. I have my water in my water bath canner boiling already. It takes about 45 minutes for this guy to boil up. So just to make sure all my ducks are in a row, I get this boiling before I move on to the rest of it. So without further ado, let's get cooking. First things first, we have our berries. So I don't do a traditional jam or a traditional jelly. I'm really not a fan of making official jellies because you have to strain it overnight and all that. But I also don't like seeds. So I use a Squeezo and strain this out so that none of the seeds remain. So it's kind of, my mom refers to it as a full fruit jelly. So I've got about 4 cups of wild blackberries here, and I'm going to start by getting this up to a boil. As it heats up, I'm going to start adding in my pectin. I use just classic traditional ball pectin, and obviously I'm not necessarily endorsing that or anything. I'm not fancy in any way, but it's just what I use and it works really well for me. So I'm going to slowly start adding this in as this heats up. Also of note, behind this I have another pan, and that has some water boiling and it has the lids for my 8-ounce jars because I want to make sure they're nice and sterilized before I use those two. Alright, now that I have the pectin in and the fruit has been going for a little while, it's getting to a pretty good boil. I put a little bit of butter in. That's going to help keep a lot of the foaming and things down so that it doesn't boil over and cause some problems on my stove. What I'm doing now is getting this to a full rolling boil. And a rolling boil is one that cannot be stirred down. So no matter how hard you stir, the water is going to keep on bubbling. I'm actually getting pretty close to that point right now. And again, the reason for that butter is to keep it a little more under control so it doesn't fly all over the place. We are at a good rolling boil. So next comes the sugar. Regular granulated sugar, and I'm going to just keep stirring this in. Obviously, since the water is so hot, it's dissolving quite quickly, but as there's quite a bit, it still takes just a minute. With the 4 cups of fruit that I had, I put in 4.5 teaspoons of pectin, and I'm adding 5 cups of sugar. This is a very, very basic recipe, and I find that these are the most delicious. It's fun to mix it up and maybe do a blackberry and vanilla. That one is actually super good. But I also like to do the classics. They're really, really nice. The next thing I'm going to do is bring this back to that rolling boil. We are at our rolling boil the second time. I am going to give this 1 full minute to boil like crazy. I'm going to keep stirring it to make sure that nothing gets stuck to the bottom, nothing burns, and then it's time to get it in the jars. I'm going to remove it from the heat. I have my strainer and my glass. And I'm going to just ladle the jam into the glass. I have done this enough that I can pretty much eyeball how far it has to be from the top rather than using the measurer. So that's typically how I do it. I've got my jam. I'm going to stir it around to make sure there are no air bubbles. And then I have my lid. I'll pop that on the top. And tighten this just till it's finger tight. I don't want to overdo it. I have 7 delicious jars ready to go. Next step, of course, is to get them into the water bath canner. Take my handy dandy little jar lifters. And I get them all settled into the hot water bath. As you can see there, I was extremely careful with how I placed them because we don't want them to tip at all, because again, if that jam or jelly touches the inside of the lid, it may not set up and seal properly. Here in Minnesota, without any need for adjusting for altitude, I get these in there for 10 minutes. The hot water bath canner is in its final seconds of the countdown. So when this goes off, I'm going to use my jar lifter again to take them out and just set them all on the countertop. One thing I love about our quartz countertops is that I can take hot things and just put them right there. There we go, a beautiful water bath can, full fruit jelly. You can see the steam rising off of them as I take them out. And as when I was putting them in, I'm being very careful to keep them level so none of the jam touches the lid. Oh, do you hear that? One of them popped already. All right, so there we have it. 7 beautiful 8-ounces of wild blackberry full fruit jelly. I don't know if you could hear that, but one of them did already pop, saying that it had a nice strong seal. They can keep popping for up to 24 hours. I've typically never found it to take longer than about 10 minutes, maybe 15. I think pretty much just 10. So I will let them sit here. Even after they've sealed, I'm gonna let them sit for a full 24 hours to let them start to set up. It can take up to 2 full weeks for the jam to fully set up. So even when I move them off the counter, I'm gonna make sure I keep them really stable so that they can continue to set up really nicely. I hope you enjoyed our first canning of the year. It was a great joy to me. So make sure you check out all of the other stuff we have going on. Down below, I will post this recipe so you can make this yourself if you'd like. Also, when you're down there, make sure you hit that little subscribe button. And then next to it, there's a little bell icon. Hit that. That'll notify you every single time we post a video. On top of what we're doing here on YouTube, we have a blog that is themnhomestead.com. And finally, you can check us out on Instagram at the.mn.homestead. And we will see you next time up at the homestead.